Okay, so the webinar here is HL7 Project Management Tool Overview for HL7 Project Facilitators, and I'm David Hamill, the Director of the HL7 Project Management Office. Today the goals will be to demonstrate the various project tools available to HL7, including the Searchable Project Database, GForge, and Project Insight, as well as give an overview of the HL7 project approval process. So there's three ways to search for an HL7 project. The first is through the Searchable Project Database. The second is through GForge, and there's an Excel file out on GForge that is in a report format. And then the third is Project Insight itself. And I'll go over each one of these and actually demonstrate them as well. So the first one is the easiest way to search for HL7 projects. And it's available on the hl7.org website in two places. One is in the lower right portion of this shot here under the commonly accessed information under Search Current Projects from Project Insight. But also, we have all of these tools I'm talking about under Resources, Tools, and Resources as well. So this screenshot shows you the resources and tools and resources. You can see we have a section here for project tracking tools, and underneath that there's actually GForge, Project Insight, as well as a link to that searchable project database. So once you get into the searchable project database, you're brought up with a various number of fields to search on. Typically, people are searching for keyword or sponsor. That would be the work group. So if you wanted to look up all of marketing projects, you would just list the marketing committee in the drop-down in the sponsor. Then there's various statuses or product types. There's some date formats date fields that you can search on. This item here, project type, is another one. And then I actually use project number here quite a bit to go directly to a project. So the next few slides will show you the values in the various fields. Project type, if somebody wanted to look at all the projects that are related to a DSTU ballot, they could use that in the drop-down here. There's certain projects that are identified as ISO or JIC ballot type projects, or a vendor contract also is a type. For the statuses, what I've created here is the various high-level statuses that our projects can be in. And they mostly conform to where a project is within their balloting based on their type of balloting that they're going to go through. So you can see here that I have many entries for whether if it's a DSTU project, has the DSTU period expired? Are they reconciling from their ballot? Are they requesting publication for that project? Or are they actually accepting comments and within their test period? You can see I have other ones for informative ballots and normative ballots, comment only. Some of the other more interesting statuses are 3-year plan items. All the work groups were asked to do 3-year planning a few years ago, and so we put that in Project Insight. So you can actually see what a work group plans on working in the future. Active projects are projects that are out there and have resources actively assigned to them. So they're progressing along, but they haven't met the ballot phase yet. And obviously, I keep on talking about ballots because the bulk of the projects that we have at HL7 are centric to something going through ballot. Archived is a feature we added just a couple of months ago in actually early 2011. And now we have access to view all projects that are in Project Insight through this searchable project database. So we've closed about 200 projects over the past few years, and quite often a work group will be wondering about a certain project, and if they couldn't find it before, they can now find it because we may have archived it. So when a project is closed, I don't actually delete it from Project Insight, but rather I mark it as archived, and then it'll show up when you use that project status. The last one I wanted to go through here is on hold. Sometimes a project has been being worked on, and for whatever reason, the work group has to pull their resources off, but they don't want to close the project. They know they're going to get back to working on that project, but they don't have any resources assigned to it right now. So we put that project in a status of on hold. For product type, this was a list of HL7 product types created about 4 or 5 years ago. So it may be a little bit outdated, but it's the best summary of a list that we have. And so each project tries to best identify what type of product type they're working on, and it could be multiple. So for instance, if publishing is leading the version 2.8 project, they'll actually check all these V2 messages type of thing. But this way, if somebody wanted to see all of the projects that are working on CCOW, they could just use that entry and search on those types of projects. Here is the date fields that can be sorted on. I don't use this all that much, but sometimes we need to pull off some data based on a date range. So you select whether you want to see all the projects that have a next milestone date within a certain date range, or that they actually are planning on ending in a certain date range, and then you get a subset of projects that meet that criteria. When you do a search on your criteria I just reviewed, you'll come up with a subset of high-level information about projects. So this screenshot here shows the screen listed the first 25 projects of the 307 total that we have in the project database. Typically, the default is the newest project first. So of course, when this screenshot was taken, we were, this project number 752 was the most recent one entered into Project Insight. If you click on any of these fields in this summary view, you'll be brought to the detailed view. And so the detailed view page reflects primarily information that is entered on the project scope statement form. And I'll get into the project scope statement form a little bit more later on in the presentation. But the detail form can reflect the entire scope of the project, some target dates, some status updates, and a little bit other information about the project. And what I will do now is actually show you how to go about using that feature. So the searchable project database, as I said, was either through this link here on the home page, or resources, tools and resources. And then once this page comes up, page down to project tracking tools. And then you'll see you can get it here as well. So if we wanted to look at all of the marketing committee projects that are being worked on right now, we could select marketing work group and filter, and we see that there's 4 marketing projects out there right now. And they are in various statuses. There's one that's on hold, the CDA Product and Services Guide Phase 3, and there's others that are active. If we wanted to look at structured documents that does a lot of balloting work, you can see that they have 30 projects total. And if I page down here, many of them are active, but then as we page down deeper and deeper, you'll see that they're in various statuses of balloting. You can see who the project leaders are here, and as I said, I will open up the detail view here of this project, and you'll see that it has the scope, more information about approval dates, the objectives and deliverables, and their target dates, what the next milestone date is, and other information captured on the project scope statement. Now, one thing is, let's see all the archived projects from structured documents. If we wanted to see what they have closed, we see that they have closed 9 projects over the years, and so the status here is archived. And actually, recently, somebody asked, well, let me see all of, say, structured documents projects, whether they're archived or not archived. That's where I just have the status be select, and we'll get a result set of 39. So as I said, that is the easiest way to search for HL7 projects. So the second way to search for projects is through GForge. And GForge is an application that we use for various things. What the Project Management Office uses it for is to house reports reflecting all the projects that are being worked on at HL7. And actually, this report is an Excel spreadsheet, and it is the foundation for the data that goes into the searchable project database that I just showed. So the location of this Excel spreadsheet with projects is in the TSC area of GForge. So to get there is once you get into GForge, and I'll show you how to get there, you go to their Projects tab and then TSC. So the nomenclature in GForge is a little strange because they consider TSC as a project as a whole. We at HL7 actually put work groups typically under the Projects tab. So once you get to the TSC area in GForge, there's various places you can go on the left side here, and you have to actually go to Files. This circle here should be lower. It's the Files area, and then you'll see there's a sub-area within that Files called HL7 Project List. This screenshot shows you that I keep about 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 copies, not copies, but releases of the Excel report. And you can see that I typically release the report every week or two. It's a manual process I do to update information entered into Project Insight and then have it viewable on the searchable project database. But as you can see, it's just a simple Excel file, about the size 1 meg or 2 meg, and it reflects the same data that we just looked at on the searchable project database with the detailed information that comes from the project scope statement. So you can see here there's the Project Insight unique identifier number, the project name, the work group that sponsors it, co-sponsor information, steering division, the scope description, etc. There's also something new in the past few months that I have created is a Project Health tab. And this Project Health report is ongoing, so this screenshot actually does not reflect what we have out there right now, because each couple of weeks I am actually adding to this report with more information. But it gives you a red, yellow, green type of high-level count of your work group's status on their projects. So when I look at the Architectural Review work group, I see they have 3 total active projects, and those are pre-ballot. 1 is in a green status, so that's good. 2 are behind by more than 120 days, which actually is 2 working group meetings. So I focus on the working group meetings. And then they don't have anything else to report here, so they have 3 total projects. A little bit more interesting might be, we've got here education has 3 total. There's 1 green, 1 yellow, 1 red. They have 1 project on hold, and they have a few 3-year plan items that are behind schedule. So this is something that I will work with the TSC and the steering divisions to present this report at the May working group meeting in Orlando to say, hey, here's some aggregate information. The work groups can look at the items that are in red, and they can start addressing those. And it's a tool to be able to keep on top of their project health. So before we get into Project Insight, I will demonstrate GForge. As I said, if we go back to HL7.org homepage, there's a couple ways to get to GForge. One is right here on the homepage under Commonly Accessed Information, and the other, again, is through Resources, Tools and Resources. Once again, the project tracking tools, and then you can get to GForge. And if you actually click on GForge, it will bring up this page. And one thing I'm showing you here is I am not logged in. So this information is accessible to anyone without a login. You don't need a login to view it. You click on the Projects tab up at the top, and then I actually have it so it is descending order here. But as I said, the TSC area, their project area, you then go to the Files tab within the TSC. It will bring up various information that is being gathered in the Files area. And it's the HL7 project list. And then you'll see, sure enough, we have about 10 or 12 reports out there. I click on one of the Excel reports. It'll be brought up, and it's going to look like the PowerPoint slide I showed with all the project scope statement information. And one thing I do is when I create this, I do sort it by, it's sorted by project sponsor. So typically, work groups that would want to look at this want to see, if their attachments was looking at it, they want all theirs grouped together. And as I said, this leftmost tab has the project health information on it. So it's color-coded so that easy to see that the reds are kind of what you want to focus on initially. So that is what we have on GForge for searching a project. The third way to search a project is Project Insight. And actually, there's a lot more than just searching that you can do with Project Insight. And so what I've done is I've kind of given the way to search for a project. The easiest way is a searchable project database. Then if you need something in the Excel format, then you can go to that level. If you still need to get a little bit more deeper, then you go into Project Insight. But what Project Insight offers is basically a web-based project management application that offers project scheduling, flexible reporting, and project templates, and as well as, for me as an administrator, customization, so that it's customized to support HL7 needs, and you'll see that as I walk through this. But as you can see here, it actually offers a lot of the similar things that Microsoft Project does, but in a web-based project management point of view. So to get to Project Insight, again, it's through the home page, Resources, Tools and Resources, under Project Tracking Tools, and I've actually given the direct URL here. One thing to note is, in order to get into Project Insight, each person needs to have a username and password. And so we have created it such that each work group and steering division has one username and password that is shared amongst the work group. It is not your HL7.org username and password. It's separate than that. And the reason for this is our agreement with Project Insight is such that it wouldn't be cost effective to have hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of usernames and passwords for Project Insight. So we have about 60 or 70 of them out there, and that's how we provide access to Project Insight. So getting started, this is the logon page to Project Insight. And then once you're in, depending on what username and password you logged into. So if you're marketing, you're going to use their username and password, and you'll be brought forward a different welcome screen than if you were Structured Docs or ArcRim. Now, the screenshot here shows the default welcome screen that I don't know if it's used much by any work group anymore, because Project Insight has been around for quite a few years for us. We have customized our home pages. But the reason I kept this screen here is to show that there are a couple of tutorials that are available within Project Insight that are very helpful. And to get to these tutorials, if your welcome screen is not this, you would just simply go to the help icon here and play the system overview tutorials, and that will get you to the Project Insight tutorial. So those are very, very good tutorials. And as I said, the home page can be customized, and so here is an example of clinical genomics. So the clinical genomics co-chairs, if they logged in, they would be presented with this home page. And basically this home page is, there's a folder structure on the left which has a folder for each working group, and then on the right is a list of their projects within that folder. A couple of other these arrows, it shows that many times people click on this little left arrow here which closes the folder over here. It hides the folder, and so I point that out because once this window for the folders is closed, then it's easy to forget how to open it back up. Another thing is, this is from this home icon, this is how you can set your home page default if you want to change it. So how do entries get into Project Insight? I've mentioned the project scope statement. It is a Word document, and it's required for all active projects. And so work groups, their co-chairs or their project facilitators, and anybody leading a project completes a project scope statement. Also, I mentioned 3-year plan items. These do not require a project scope statement. They can be a simple 1- or 2-sentence statement of, my work group plans on doing such and such, and we think we're going to start it in June of 2012, and it's going to be ending in September of 2013. The data entry into Project Insight can be done by any of the work groups with their user ID and password, but typically it's done by me. What typically happens is those project scope statements get completed by the work groups, and as I'll show you in the process in a few slides, it makes its way to the PMO, and the PMO enters it into Project Insight. So this is a screenshot of the HL7 project scope statement. As you can see, it's a Word document, check boxes, some text boxes, and all of the fields match to some of the things you've seen before earlier in the presentation. So the location of the project scope statement is under Resources Templates on the HL7.org homepage. Once you open it up, you'll see that it's actually a zip file. And that zip file contains about 8 Word documents. Might seem overwhelming at first. The project scope statement, you only need to focus on one of the top 2 there. There's a template only, which is used by those co-chairs and project facilitators that are running a lot of projects. They know the project scope statement by heart, easily filled it out. The one with instructions is for somebody who's new to the process and probably has some questions on, well, what is really being asked here in this field on the scope statement. The other 6 documents are the project approval process based on what type of sponsor we have. So working from the bottom up, the most common is projects with a sponsor of a work group. But then the TSC also sponsors some projects. So they have a different approval process. They go through a different one. Marketing and other board committees, board-sponsored committees, go through yet a different project approval process. The International Council and international affiliates, that's just the International Council, they have their own project approval process. For any contract or board of directors project, they have their own, and then the affiliates have their own approval process. Now, I typically explain that the work group approval process, because it's 80 or 90% of the projects that come through, basically what happens is they fill out a project scope statement, they have their own work group review and approve it, they then submit it to their steering division reviews and approves it, and then it goes up to the TSC for review and approval. So those 3 reviews and approvals are a way of communicating that project and ensuring that there's not a duplicate project out there, that the scope is correct and adequate for that work group to be working on, that perhaps a co-sponsor, another work group should be involved and identified here. So it's a way to make sure if say modeling and methodology is running a project and somebody says, you know what, you really need SOA to be involved with this as well, let's make them a co-sponsor, and that project approval process indicates that then SOA as a co-sponsor needs to be involved in the review and approval. With something like marketing, because they don't belong to any steering division, they have a different project approval process. They don't need to go through a steering division because they're not part of a steering division. And so that's why those 6 documents with the project approval process differ. So back to searching in Project Insight. So if you needed to search for some information in Project Insight, the icon is the magnifying glass here, and you click on that, and it'll give a quick search or an advanced search. The quick search here, I search for info button here. And what you'll notice is the result set is various items in Project Insight. Many of them are, with this icon here, it looks like a project schedule or a Gantt chart. That's because that's exactly what it is. Project Insight, its core functionality is the project schedule. Now for HL7, we're not using that as much as other businesses, and I'll get into it a little bit more later, but certainly some task in a project schedule has the word info button in it. Down here we have a different icon that looks like a Microsoft Word document, and sure enough, it is some file with .doc at the end. So there is a Word document that has info button in it. And there could be other things. Project Insight also provides action items, issues, other type of information that could be in the results set. We're not using that in Project Insight, but that functionality is there, and so that's what you get when you search within Project Insight. You get various components that come back in your results set. Now, a lot of times, people just want to view some information in Project Insight. Now, again, you can view all the scope statement information in the Searchable Project Database, but sometimes you want to look at the original project scope statement in its Word document form, and that is stored with each project in Project Insight. And this icon here, the Project Views, provides various ways to look at information in Project Insight. The Project Document area is where the original project scope statement Word document would be located. Project Summary shows the information that is actually pulled from Project Insight and put into the Searchable Project Database. The Task List is how you view the actual project schedule. So, entering an actual project scope statement, for those co-chairs out there or project facilitators that want to tackle this on their own, they certainly can. You go into, let's say, your anatomic pathology. You go into your folder here. You add something with the green plus sign. You're brought up with this type of list of things, and you're going to add a project. This screenshot here shows basically I copy and paste information from the Word doc project scope statement into the various fields in Project Insight. There's a couple of tabs that we use when we add a project to Project Insight. The first is the General tab. This has been filled in with some information that is unique to HL7. This is where my customization comes into play. As the administrator of Project Insight, I have told Project Insight to fill the project sponsor with these values. One thing here is copy from template. If you're running a comment-only project, you select this comment-only project, and a project schedule will be built based on our PCD, Project Lifecycle, and therefore that will be built. Now, we're not really using, most projects are not using that schedule, but a few that did want to use it, we do have that capability there. The next tab is the Custom Fields tab, and this is totally customized from work I've done as the administrator. You can see you have steering division here, project facilitator, co-sponsor, other things that are unique to HL7. So these two tabs are what is filled in to add a project to Project Insight. Now, when you do actually look at your information for your work group, the hierarchy is the project, the folder, the document. So right here, we have clicked on the Structured Documents folder here on the left side, which is actually hidden here. And you're brought up with this view. And I've expanded this first project here. And this is the project itself, which is the schedule. Everybody thinks of Microsoft's project as that schedule you look at with the tasks and the durations and the resources. That's what this icon here, this top icon is. Underneath that is your Documents folder, and then within that Documents folder is your actual document, that is the project scope statement. So that's how Project Insight structures their hierarchy. This I have put as optional, because as I said, if anybody wants to learn more about project schedules within Project Insight, contact me and I'll get into it a little bit more. But I do like to show that certainly Project Insight has the project schedule, just like what would look like a Microsoft project. You can track everything. You can add these. This circle here is how you edit these descriptions, or you delete them, or you move them around. This actual list of tasks comes from a template that I created based on the HL7 project lifecycle for a normative project. So if someone's going to run a project that's going to go through a normative ballot, these are the steps that we have in our project lifecycle. So nobody has to reinvent the wheel. They don't have to type all this in. It's already in there when they choose that template. Now, before I go into Project Facilitators, I will log into Project Insight. Again, it's under Tools and Resources. The other place it is on the Searchable Project Database. We have a link both here on the detail as well as on the summary page. There is a link to Project Insight. And when you click on these, you will be brought to the login screen. So I will type in marketing. And what this gives you is it brings your projects to the forefront here. But if you were to go into some other folder, you won't have access to modifying their projects. You don't have access. You only have access to your own. And so as you can see, let's look at the Ambassador Webinar Program. If we actually open that up, this is the project schedule. Of course, it's not a ballotable project, so of course it doesn't have a template and no schedule to it. So what I will do is I'll just click on Patient Administration. I see this is a comment-only one. We'll bring it up, and you can actually see that there is a schedule here. But if you wanted to look at other information like project documents, here is the original project scope statement that was for this interdependent registries project. And if you wanted to look at project scope statement information, that was copied into here. Here is the information there. There is that search button if we wanted to search on, info button was my example, but I won't do that. So back to the presentation. I mentioned project facilitators quite a bit. There are two types. One is the work group level. The other is the steering division level. The work group level is typically people who function as a projects point person. So they're the go-to person if somebody has a question about a project. They're leading the project. They're completing certain documents that need to be completed, the project scope statement, the NIB form. They also secure approvals and address any questions brought forward by the work group, the steering division, or the TSC. And they're the person that I'll go to or a steering division project facilitator will go to if they have questions. Now, the steering division project facilitator, like I said, they will request updates from the workgroup project facilitators. They're there to mentor anybody who needs help with project management in HL7. And then they also help their steering division manage their project portfolio. And going forward, it'll be working on that project health report I showed you from the Excel spreadsheet in GForge, where you had the red, yellow, and green columns. That will be the tool for the steering division project facilitator to work through any project that is in a red status. So here is kind of an abbreviated page of the project approval process, and I pretty much focused on this as we looked at the zip file. There's various project approval processes based on the project sponsor. Again, this shows the zip file that contains the project approval processes and the detailed information on that. These next couple of slides show the workgroup project approval process, which I had explained earlier. Basically, it goes from the workgroup to the steering division to the TSC for all those review and approvals. The approval process is also located in Appendix B of the project scope statement template. So a little bit more detail in that. That is the project scope statement with instructions. That's the file name there. So the next steps for HL7 PMO, like I said, we're going to continually modify and enhance the project health report. I'm going to be creating a project report card, and from that report card, assign a grade or score to each work group, and then work with the TSC to incorporate that grade and score into the project approval process. Right now, the approval process doesn't look at, is a work group keeping up with the existing projects they have right now? If they have too many projects right now, can they actually handle another project? If they can't, we'll want to be able to address that. So this screen shows the references of the various locations we went to in the presentation. And if anyone has further questions, contact me at pmo@hl7.org, or you can call 734-677-7777. That is in the U.S., so it is a +1 before that number. So thank you for viewing this